I'm recording this because I'm doing an update on a post I did the other day. It was a live feed in regard to the targeting of families where the kids have been highlighted or identified as neglected. And this came about because of the Hyde report, which was talking about the fact that the department is inadequately dealing with the issues around child protection, as we well know, and particularly in this case, they're not dealing with the issues at all, and so that has been the case for years. So there has been an addition to that because clearly they've had a bit of pushback, I guess, against that, and we certainly at the Child Protection Party have contributed to that pushback. So as a result of that, it came out in the Advertiser today that they're letting us know exactly what it is that they plan to be doing in relation to this rounding up, if you like, of these 500 kids. I raised my concern the other day that there'd be a lot of kids that would be, and families that would be targeted unnecessarily because they're going to lower the bar around what actually is neglect. And I think we need to be mindful of what it is that they're actually doing. And some clarification has come about, and we can see that in this particular. I need to make that smaller. So in this particular article, they're talking about, firstly, South Australian Police allocates 2 officers to oversee checks on 500 high-risk children. And I guess what that means is that 2 officers are going to take a long time to go through every check on these 500 kids. But, you know, who knows whether or not this actually is going to take place in the way that they say it is. There's a big difference between exactly what the government says they're going to do and, I guess, the reality. Police Commissioner Grant Stevens has revealed it should be a last resort to send police officers to homes of 500 children flagged in a top-level report as living in high-risk situations. Premier Malinauskas, as I said in our last presentation, said police officers will be drafted an urgent check on the children identified in a report. So it made it sound like there were thousands of police that were going to be used in order to investigate these 500 children that they've identified. And that, as I said the other day, the children were identified by the Child Protection Department, and that they were going to take swift action in order to ensure these children's safety. On Thursday, Child Protection Minister Catherine Hildyard could not say exactly how the operation would work or when it would be complete, but that police would work hand in hand with child protection staff. So a lot of this was kind of unknown. It was ill thought out because no one really had any idea as to what was going to happen here at all. And now they've kind of, with a knee-jerk reaction, they've tried to seek some clarification as to what's going to happen. So on Friday, Mr. Stevens told 5AA radio that officers should be used as a last resort. It still remains the responsibility of Child Protection Service, even in those situations where there's serious concern about the welfare of kids. Now, police should only be used when they believe that, or when the department believes that there may be a severe conflict when the social workers turn up to remove a child or to do an investigation. And I think that we need to be mindful of the fact that police themselves don't like doing this work. I've worked with some police officers in the past who have had to do this work and they hate it. There's nothing more stressful for them than seeing children scream and shout and saying they want to be at home, what's happening to them, the trauma that's created in children as a result of being removed. It's extremely intense. And that these officers don't like going through this process at all. They find it extremely traumatizing themselves. So we're always available to assist child protection service staff. So what they're basically saying here is that they're going to help out if required and if asked. But basically, I don't want to do this. You're asking us to do something which actually isn't our purvey. It's your job. um, and that's where they're talking about the safety and well-being of those people attending the house. Mr. Stevens said 2 senior officers have been allocated for an initial period of 3 months to coordinate the efforts of multiple government agencies to prioritise which of the 500 children are most at risk. And now, pardon me, what I would suggest is that if you have had the department knock on your door as a result of this particular effort that they're now going through, then I suggest you contact us at CPP and seek some form of advocacy so that we can work our way through this so that your kids aren't removed. They'll be working through the weekend to start the process of how we're going to approach this task and the time frame that's going to be required. And we hope that we'll be able to receive further information about that over the coming days, so that we can alert you as to what's happening in relation to you being set upon by the Child Protection Department. Later in the week, Mr. said that he had met with Deputy Commissioner of Police and others as we begin executing our response. SAPOL and DCP Child Protection Department are working closely with today's meeting, urgently progressing this effort. So they've gone into this without much thought or consideration, and certainly very little consideration for you. There's no discussion here about how this will impact the community as a whole. They do say that 500 of these children have already been known to the department, as we assumed when I spoke about this the other day. It is an extra rapid check to identify the factors that are causing these particular high-risk situations. And who's defining the high-risk situations? Well, I guess they're social workers that are a bit paranoid about what's happening with regard to these families and failing to take into account what's likely to happen if the children are removed, the traumatisation for the children, and inability to be able to evaluate what changes need to be made for the family and assisting the family to make those changes so that the situation in which the children are living is more acceptable. It goes on to say that on Thursday on the ABC, we know what the problem is. Yeah, so do we. We've been talking about that for years. We can identify the problem, and we don't need more people trying to identify the problem. We need more ways of fixing the problem. And this is extremely frustrating because we at Child Protection Party have been offering the solutions for years, and no one ever seems to listen to us, but I guess that's just simply the way it is. And we don't have all the answers, but we have some. And so a conversation with us perhaps might be helpful. And it's not about having a conversation with us because we're the Child Protection Party. It's having a conversation with us because I, as a social worker that has worked in this area for a long, long time, and because of the contacts we have with families, and we know exactly what they're saying and how they're feeling about you and the Child Protection System's involvement in their life. And as a result of that, we can suggest and make changes to you. But no, one thing's for sure, we never hear from you. It goes on to say she's got to go, or I have to keep. Well, what's this story? The revelation that 500 children are living in high-risk situations has sparked calls to replace Child Protection Department. Oh, well, hold on. We've been talking about getting rid of Kathy Taylor for years. So I don't know what the hell this is all about. She's got to go. Why have they kept her in her positions? Janet Wells, whose grandchildren were killed in 2016, on multiple reports that their welfare were made to the department. Mr. Malinowskis is resisting calls to sack Ms. Taylor, but said the department culture was something that will be assessed very carefully. Now, this culture thing, or this department, whatever's happening within this department, has been the same for years. Whether Labor or Liberal or whoever it is that's in power, it makes no difference. The department stays the same. And I must say, though, that Kathy Taylor's been there for a long, long time, and the culture within the department has never changed. not one iota. We'd expect her to implement some changes that would change the culture and the way the workers there view the problem, which is what's happening for families, but they don't. They're risk averse, and they'll just choose, in many cases, to remove a child as opposed to working with that child, working with the family, primarily because social workers do not have the skills, and they probably don't have the time, and they probably have excessive workload. So I get all of that, but often they just don't have the skills to be able to work with families appropriately and to be able to build relationships with families so that the best possible outcome for children can be created. So this is where we're at the moment. They're contemplating what they should do next, even though they've now announced that there are these fires. So they set this panic throughout society and for all of these families and these children about whether they're going to be removed. Most of these families would know who they are. But I would also suggest there would be hundreds and hundreds of other families that don't fit into this high risk category, but who have had the department knock on their door, and they would be worrying as well, because we don't know specifically who those people are, the 500 kids, but there'll be lots of people thinking that, oh, well, it might be me. So if they do knock on your door, though, could you please contact us at CPP, and if you need to email us at the email address below. And if you're watching this on YouTube, could you please subscribe, ring the bell for future notifications. Take care, everybody. Look after yourselves and be safe.